So now I'd like to go ahead and, for the audience, define all the musical terms because they go just as heavy-handed as they are with the narrations and dialogue in this game. They're also really freaking heavy with the amount and the non-subtlety of musical references in this game. So let's just do the first few that came up, the first four anyway. So this game is called Eternal Sonata. A sonata is a multi-movement musical piece for a solo instrument and a piano, or just a piano, because you wouldn't have a piano and a piano, right?
Sometimes, right?
Two pianos?
Aren't there pieces written for like 4 pianos?
Oh, I wonder if those are sonatas too. I'm not sure.
I don't know about that, but I've definitely seen things. Maybe they weren't piano, maybe they were harpsichords or some shit. I don't know.
Right, it could be. But the point of sonata is it's like for a solo instrument and plus a piano, and really the plus a piano is just for additional accompaniment for instruments that can't usually play multiple notes at the same time, like violins and stuff. They can play 2 at a time, but not very much. They don't usually do that, right?
Sure.
So, and they all have a set. Sonatas have a set form. There are 3 parts. The first part is exposition, and it's always there are 2 different themes played. There's like theme 1 and theme 2, and they're both played in what you could call the home key, just whatever the key they decided the song to be in. Then they go into the development section, and in the development section, it's like they break down those first two melodies that they played in the first section into a bunch of little parts and play them in any other key other than the home key. And, it's basically just how many different ways can you vary the original, can you remix the original melody is kind of what that is. And lots of songs do that. Like, for example, the Imperial March from Star Wars?
Oh, sure, yeah.
The opening is da 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 da. But then when you get to the second part, it has that development section where it's just like it has like the same kind of parts in a whole bunch of different other keys popping up all over the place. So that's what development kind of is. It's just how many variations of the main one can you make. And then there's the recapitulation, and I don't really know enough about sonatas to tell you if it's exactly the same as part 1 or if they change it up a little bit. Now, funnily enough, this is the 3-part song. Sonatas have 3 parts, but all of Chopin's piano sonatas have 4 parts. They have a finale at the end. So that's interesting. So that's what that is. I looked up polka, and
right.
Like I had like an idea like what a polka is in my mind, although I don't know of any famous ones. I mostly think of accordion music for the most part. Right. And something like that, right?
German sounding almost.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gotta be German in origin, right?
It might be Polish. I think it's Polish. To be honest.
You're probably right.
I think polka actually means Polish woman in Polish, now that I think about it.
Oh, really?
I think so. But the definition I found was a song of Bohemian origin, which just means like Bohemians are just like people who are like odd, like slightly not the social norm in some way, and they're usually they usually take part in the arts.
Yeah, I mean, that definition for the word Bohemian has gone through. I mean, it referred to a people from Bohemia, and then it kind of took on all sorts of different meanings. That happens all the time in English and most languages.
Right. So it's a kind of song, you guys.
Yeah, it is.
Polka's mother's name is Solfege, and Solfege is the name of when you sing notes, not C, D, E, but Do, Re, Mi. That's called solfege. I don't know why it's called that.
Interesting.
It drives me goddamn insane the way Japanese people learn music, because my daughter takes piano lessons. I already know how to read music. She comes back and she like asks me, what note is this? Because she's not studying that hard enough and she hasn't memorized all the notes. And I'm like, that's a freaking C. And she's like, what's a C? And I'm like, it's like do, re, mi. It's like the first one is do. And she's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, you know what a do is, but you don't know what a C is? And she's like, yeah. And she can sing like entire songs. Dude, this will blow your mind. This will blow everyone's mind. Are you guys in the podcast listening to this? Oh my God. You know the Act Raiser song, Birth of the People, the one that goes da 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 da. I taught my daughter how to play just that quick little melody on the piano, and like the next day, from out of nowhere, she could sing it like freaking re mi so fa mi re something 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 something, and I'm like,
oh wow,
how did you just like freaking memorize that instantly? Like I'd have to sit down, write it all down. I don't know that I could memorize that quickly at all, but she knows it perfectly.
Whoa, that's a bonkers way of learning music. You are correct.
Right. So when she sees like a something and a sharp on it, she doesn't call it C sharp. She calls it do sharp. Driving me crazy. It's driving me crazy, Mel, because I don't know the names of the do re mi by heart yet.
Oh, do sharp is great.
Mi
That's
sharp,
great.
mi flat. Oh my
mi
God.
Sharp.
Get out of here.
Oh, so flat.
So flat. Oh God. Okay, so that's solfege, do re mi.
Oh wow.
So this one's kind of funny. Tenuto means I guess you have to write it on the score somewhere as a sign. And tenuto means to play the full length of the note. Now you'd think that just the note being written there would mean you have to play the full length of the note, but I guess when it's particularly important to the composer that you do that, they write that because they know that before you play the next note, you have to take your hands off the piano to put them back down on the next note, right? And so there's always going to be a little bit of open air time or whatever. Same with like guitars, probably with basically any instrument, probably. And so I guess that's the sign that the composer uses to tell the player, dude, make sure you get all the way to the end of the note before you change. You got to change quickly. Don't make any space in between the notes. That's what tenuto means. And okay, that's all we've learned so far. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Very, very edifying.
I didn't say it. Yeah. So Allegretto means fairly brisk pace. I actually skipped it. Ritardando just means to slow down.
Okay, that makes sense because the word retard means to lessen or to slow or reduce.
Okay. Yeah.
So this literally is what I think it is. It's I couldn't get over these people deadpanedly saying retardando.
Deadpan. Completely deadpan.
Having never heard that term outside of this game at all, not being a musician at all myself, I guess I don't know. You've heard the term before, I assume.
Right. Yeah, I have.
Okay, so I had not. So off the bat, it kind of rang a little weird.
But I mean, you know that it's a music term and they're just saying it as the name of the city, right?
I know it now. I assumed after a fashion, I kind of understood, I bet every proper noun in this game is a musical term.
Dude, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've come to understand that. But all the same, it is quite funny to hear.
And then next, we're going to go to Ritardando Village, and we're going to see new characters. Beat and Allegretto steal some bread. So before we ask you about it, I'll just define these. I mean, we all know what the beat is. It's pretty hard to put it into words, but it's basically just a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 that you can count in a song. That's all that is, right? And Allegretto is a tempo marking. Tempo means the speed at which you should play a song. And Allegretto means, like, how fast is this, Mel? Fairly brisk pace.
I have heard about these kind of descriptions before, and it always, I felt like if I were a musician, that would always, like, drive me nuts. I was like, what does it mean to be sort of soft?
Right, to be fairly brisk. Yeah, all of those words that get used are Italian words. And, yeah, dude, just throw the BPM on there already. Like, even if I don't have a computer, BPM means beats per minute, by the way. Even if I didn't have a computer or some kind of device to help me know or a metronome even if I didn't have a metronome to tell me how fast whatever 120 BPM is, like you could sit there and like count seconds on the clock and then multiply it by 12 and all that nonsense. Anything's better than fairly brisk pace. Am I right?
I agree. Although I did hear recently a video by Leonard Bernstein. He did obviously a while ago, a broadcast sort of like brief breakdown on some musical concepts, and this was one of them. And he kind of talked about interpretations between composers and the sorts of things that you have room for in interpretation. And I guess this is one of those. So one conductor can lead an orchestra a certain way and another can do a different way. And there are just very different ways of thinking about things. And he likened it to when you read, he used Shakespeare as an example, but when you read that work on the page, there are only very brief indicators of what is going on and what you should be doing as either the reader or the performer if you're going to act it out as a play. The rest of it is all completely up to the director or the actor or just the reader to interpret. You know, there's exit so-and-so, enter so-and-so. Someone else, there might be like tone of voice in there, angrily, whatever. But the rest of it is totally up for interpretation. And if you've ever watched a Shakespeare movie by like Kenneth Branagh or whoever, you see a lot of interpretation in there that I know I didn't see when I read, you know, fucking Macbeth or whatever. And that's obviously coming from somewhere that takes a talent to extract it from. I guess that's kind of the value of these really like vague Italian terms.
I guess that, well, when you put it like that, then, you know, a simple, fairly brisk pace might actually be the better way to go now that I think about it. I guess
instead of locking it down to like a certain beats per minute, I just know it would drive me nuts because I feel like, am I doing it right? Am I brisk enough?
I mean, if you just, right. If it's, I guess, well, that means it's, as long as it's fairly brisk to you, it should be.
Is it brisk? Right? Is it fairly brisk?
Right, fairly. Like how brisk is fairly brisk?
That's brisk, damn it.
Versus
very brisk.
Right, versus very brisk versus just brisk. Okay, so since we've entered Agogo Forest and met Fugue, let me define these terms because I forgot to do it earlier. An agogo, yeah, have you ever heard of an agogo, Mel?
I was actually thinking ahead now that you've been doing this, and I was like, agogo. I've heard the phrase, and I know what a go-go dancer is.
Oh, I don't think I knew what the agogo dancer is, although I can imagine it. So an agogo is an agogo bell, I think, is what it's fully called.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a bell, and it's just, imagine it just like this. I can describe it pretty well, I think. It's made of metal. It's two bells, by the way. So it's two bells. One's bigger than the other a little bit. They're both made of metal, and they're perfectly cone-shaped. So imagine a small, it's handheld. So imagine two small cones, and they're just...
This is an instrument.
This is an instrument, yes. And they're just connected with just like a piece of metal, another piece of metal.
I've never heard that. So I was thinking of the phrase go-go, like go-go dancer, which is like a 1950s phrase for like a not like kind of a like a jazz dancer or something.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that term specifically. But yeah, this is unrelated, I think. Yeah, it kind of sounds like this, like you might have heard like this kind of thing in a song somewhere. It's only two notes because it's only two bells, right?
Got it. Sure.
So yeah, I have written here from Wikipedia, a small bell made of two joined metal cones used as a percussion instrument in African and Latin music. Oh, I think I've heard it in Latin music is where I heard it.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm sure there's like some Mario game I played that has like... I'm sure I heard that in some Nintendo
Probably, yeah.
And then the dude who kicked our asses, fugue. Fugue is a kind of song from the Baroque era, and I think I had to try to write one, or at least I had to, understand the rules of them. Fugues have a lot of rules.
A lot of Baroque music isn't the whole concept of Baroque music a breaking of really rigid classical rules? Not breaking, but it's like subverting it for the time.
I suppose it is. I'm not that detailed. I'm not that privy to the details. I just know that like Baroque music has a hell of a lot of like decorations and
right,
like more virtuoso, sections in there to like show off, more show-offy stuff, more flashy than previous classical pieces. So a fugue, the most famous one is of course toccata in fugue, which just means toccata and fugue. So only the second part is actually a fugue, and that's by Johann Sebastian Bach, and that's the one that starts with da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. But that's not the fugue, that's the toccata. Later, the fugue is the part that starts with it's this really long thing.
Right.
And it's one of the most complex, it's probably the most musically complex piece you can create. What has to happen, if I could just like go off of memory here, is you have to start off with a melody. So in this case, it would be the that long ass complex. It's already long and has a million notes, so he's like not doing himself any favors by starting off with a big complicated melody. Then what you have to do is like you can go into another part, a different melody with that one, but then you have to come in with that same melody, but it's got to be like transposed 1/5. That's like a musical distance. Transposed up a fifth. So like the same is going to come up way higher at the same time as the first melody is like going on to do something else.
Right.
And then there's going to be like a part where they both do something different. And then you have to put in a third version. I don't remember where. Maybe it could be anywhere over that. So eventually you're going to have this thing that has all these layers. And it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think the word fugue essentially means like a flight, which is supposed to evoke like the idea of these pieces of these parts of the music kind of flying off one after the other, after the other, after the other, off into the rest of the piece.
I see.
And the whole thing, this is probably the most I know about music, which is not much, but the one of the bigger aspects of Baroque music of this period is the concept of counterpoint, which plays a big role in fugues, which is what you were just describing pretty much.
Yeah, when there's like two different melodies, or whatever, a melody and harmony, whatever, two different lines doing different things, not the same thing, then that's called counterpoint. Yeah.
It's a lot to hold in your head, and it's a very skilled thing to not only compose and think of, but to perform.
Yeah. I don't know how. This is toccata and fugue is an organ piece. You're supposed to play all those different lines all at the same time with just your two hands, yo.
Your two hands and your 2 feet.
Oh, you have feet too. That's right.
Yeah, there are foot pedals on these organs in particular, and if you've ever seen a person do this, it's how they don't fall off the bench. I don't know.
Right. They're just constantly flailing all of their four limbs, huh?
For real, yeah.
Yeah. So go listen to Toccata and Fugue if you think you want to hear the most complex music alive. Okay. Let me go ahead and define some words here. You defined some of them already. March, of course. March is music that is made to be marched to. And I think the most famous march of all time is the one by Georges, I think it's pronounced Georges Bizet, French dude, from the, I think is it an opera? Carmen, from Carmen. Is that an opera? I don't remember. But
I think so.
Yeah. And in that show, there's a song called March of the Toreadors, and that's the one that goes. Do you know that song?
Of course.
Oh, okay, you do, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the most famous march that I know of anyway. So that's March. We mentioned Andantino is a group that we heard about that's opposing the Forte government. Andantino means slightly faster than moderately slow.
I love it. I love that.
Count waltz. Waltz is just music that goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I guess it's usually written for dancing a waltz too.
Mm-hmm.
There are like several waltzes in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I think there's like 2 of them. And then now we're on the chorus planes, and a chorus is a whole group of people that sing. The most famous chorus music that I can think of is the Hallelujah chorus, the one that goes Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Choruses are like lots of people, and they're usually divided by their vocal range, the notes that they can hit, and then there's a name for like your range. So in my case, I'm a bass. Because I can hit a really low. I think the lowest note you have to be able to hit in the bass range is an E, but I can go down to like C sharp, and then I forget what the top note is, but usually as long as you hit the bottom notes, you're a bass. And then then slightly higher voiced men are tenors, and then lower voiced women are altos, and the highest voiced women are sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
That's called SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Define some words here. So for fermata, right? Fermata is a sign indicating a unspecified length of a note or a rest. Like on a musical score, there might be. That's why you have composers, right? Conductors, right? They arrive at a certain big long note in the piece. There's like a fermata sign written over it. It's like a dot with a little upside down smiley on it over it. Like a rainbow over it or something. And then, they're all going, and it's like, it could be for any amount of time. And so the conductor's like keeping his arms out to like let everyone know, yeah, keep going. And then he'll cut it off with a sign.
Right. Yeah.
That's a
I think
fermata.
I remember having a discussion with someone at one point, like, why are conductors even there? Doesn't everyone know how to play the music? And I actually, at the time, didn't have an argument. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. But I knew he was wrong, because I was like, why would they be there if there's no reason?
Right. Yeah, no, there's a reason.
I was like, of course there's a reason. I just couldn't give him an answer. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm pretty sure there's a reason.
I always wonder. I mean, the most basic reason is, of course, because, they can all look at that one guy and keep the time together with that one guy. But I always thought to myself, but if he wasn't there, like they could all, like one person could just say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if they all start with that same tempo, would they not all stay in the same?
I think it's hard, though. I think it's very hard. Like, so I was listening to, I've since come to a better understanding of, like even to a conductor's own admission, a very skilled orchestra can play without a conductor, or at least most of the piece. But they probably wouldn't do very well, and there would probably be mistakes, and there would probably, like, signaling in other people and stopping them, like you were saying, is one of the jobs of especially complex pieces. And not only that, the conductor also interprets the piece in ways that maybe the performers haven't played all the time before or whatever. So they really are relinquishing the control to him, and they shouldn't do anything without being signaled. But at the same time, the conductor isn't signaling every single fucking note.
No,
right? Like,
not every note. He can't. Yeah.
So of course they are reading the music and they are knowing what to do, and they've all played this piece many, many times before, and they're all professionals. But there are parts of it, of course, that they need to be signaled in for. And if there is, for the acoustics of the room, where they need to be lowered so that another part of the orchestra can be heard, then that is a signal that they can also give, or whatever. And that's a job of the conductor. Like there's also, I'm sure you know, like first chair violinists who are also like part conductor. Like, because there are pieces performed with a small ensemble cast where there is no conductor. And usually in those instances, a pianist or a first chair violinist will kind of fill that role a little bit, where they'll lead It's usually based on the way the piece is written to begin with. And those are usually people who will give some kind of visual cue to the rest of the whatever,
Right.
as to what to do next or when to stop and start and stuff like that.
Indeed. And I imagine if you're sitting, I don't remember exact layout, but if, for example, you're at the part where it's just the flutes or whatever, and they're playing something kind of quiet, and you're sitting right next to like the horns, and the horns. well, yeah, no. If it's just the violins, that doesn't. If it's just the flutes, that doesn't make sense. But my point is, I wonder if you can hear all the other parts of the orchestra from where you're sitting. Maybe not.
That's another good point. You probably can't.
So that's a fermata.
Right.
So we mentioned the name Baroque. That's a city that's supporting Andantino, the group. Baroque is a era in history. It's like mid-16 to mid-1700s. Basically, I just consider the Baroque era to be exactly the same lifespan as Johann Sebastian Bach. Like,
pretty much.
Like, basically, Johann Sebastian Bach, if somebody, like, says to him, come on, dude, get in touch with it's the Baroque era. You got to do it like this. I could just imagine him replying, I am the Baroque era. Like, that's
he really is.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the perfect example of it.
Yeah, and he died 1750, and yeah, that's like the end right there. He dies, Baroque dies along with him. And then we're at the Hanon Hills is the next area, and this is a name of a composer, of a French pianist and composer. Didn't know that. I looked it up just out of curiosity. Is this a thing? And it was a thing. So I'll read from Wikipedia here. Charles Louis Hanon, it's probably pronounced differently because he's French. It's probably something more cute. He was born in 1819, died in 1900. And he was a French piano pedagogue and composer. A pedagogue is a person who like studies how to teach things or how people learn things.
Right.
He is best known for his work, The Virtuoso Pianist in 60 Exercises, which is still used today for modern piano teaching, but over the years, the method has also faced criticisms. Interesting. Okay, and so before we recruited the character Salsa, and I don't think I defined it. It's a genre of music, and you will not be able to hear this, Mel, but the audience will. So here's like 5 seconds of salsa music. Here we go. And that is salsa music. It's like South
I'm
American.
imagining that it is amazing. Yeah, I think we did actually mention it. I was like, yeah, salsa, it's like Spanish for sauce.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And that's why
Just
you have the
sauce.
food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seventh dungeon, the Glissando Cliffs. A glissando just means like a slide or a bend if you're playing a guitar. So, for example, if you're playing a violin, you just pinch the string somewhere down on the neck of the violin, and you play it. It'll play a note, and if you just slide your finger up, it'll go, as you're playing it. In the case of a guitar, if you want to make a glissando, the most accurate way would be to do a bend, where you put your finger on the string down on the fretboard on the neck of the guitar, and then you just like push the string up. So you're like increasing its tension. You're pulling it up like it's a bow and arrow string. And then the sound will go. And that's really the only way, or you use a whammy bar accessory. But if you do a slide on a guitar, because guitars have frets, it doesn't go. It goes. So it doesn't do a full slide if you do it on guitar.
Sure.
Anyway, that's a glissando. Okay. And so now we broke the Cabasa Bridge. Oh, that's right. Cabasa Bridge is the name of the thing. I didn't say what a cabasa is, did I?
No.
So cabasa, it's an instrument.
Okay.
It's so imagine you're holding on to a handle for one hand. Okay, so you're holding onto a handle, and connected to the handle is a cylinder of type. A cylinder. Okay. And on that cylinder is like a bunch of, imagine that around the cylinder, a bunch of metal bead necklaces are wrapped around it. And it's an instrument, and you can like you hold it with one hand onto the handle, and the other hand you can grab the beads and shift them around, and it'll make a kind of a sound.
I know exactly what. Yes, I know the instrument. Yeah.
Here's like 3 seconds of Cabasa sounds. There you go. So that's a Cabasa.
I was getting it mixed up in my head with Cabeza, which means head.
In what language?
Spanish.
Cabeza.
I was like, why is it head bridge? What? But yeah, I got it wrong.
Head bridge. Okay. And the after we fell down there, who washes up? It's Andantino guys and Allegretto. Oh, and also Viola, right? Yeah, those 5 people, right? Yes. Andantino guys, Allegretto, and Viola wash up at the Adagio Swamp. Adagio means slowly. That's it.
Right.
At a leisurely pace. There is actually a what would you call this genre of music? There's a classical heavy metal band, a symphonic heavy metal band, maybe. It's one of those metal bands where, like, you know, it sounds like they're playing classical music, but it's on a heavy metal band. It's one of those bands. Neoclassical, maybe. There's a band like that called Adagio, and they're really elite as far as playing technique goes. It's impressive. That's Adagio. And the members of Andantino, there are 3 of them. The leader is jazz, which is the genre of music that we all know about. The girl in the blue, who's really fast, her name is falsetto. Falsetto is a voice technique. It's this sound. That really high voice that everybody that you would do, that voice that you would make for a Mickey Mouse voice. That's a falsetto voice. It's like a voice above your standard vocal range. I guess women have falsetto too, but it must be insanely high, right?
Yeah, I always thought it was specifically, and I could be wrong, when a man registers his voice to impersonate a female vocal range.
Right. Okay, yeah.
Hence the falseness in the falsetto, but I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right. It says here in the definition that I have here, a method of voice production used by male singers, especially tenors, to sing notes higher than their normal range. Yeah, so it's for men only. Okay. All right. And the last member of Andantino is Claves, the girl with the purple hair and the healing spells. And it's a kind of we're going to go into the freaking wood block grove later, but this is also kind of like 2 blocks of wood that you hit against each other.
Right.
I should have loaded up a thing. Here's the sound. Here's like 3 seconds of Claves sounds.
I actually like these better. Yeah.
Okay, the guy's voice got in there. Sorry, guys. He hit it a couple times. Like, I actually like this one better. I think a song that you guys can look up that I freaking love, and I love specifically for what I think is a Claves, is the what is that area in Brave Fencer Musashi? The woods. The woods. There's like the forest, the main forest. God damn it. Steamwood Forest, I think it is. Yeah, Steamwood Forest. Look up the song for Steamwood Forest from Brave Prince Musashi, you guys. It has this really cool wood block sound that I believe is a Claves. It goes... It's super fun. I love it. And then we arrive at a Cantabile Inn. Now I have here Cantabile, the definition. It means to play it. If it's like written on the score, Cantabile, it means to play it as though you are singing it in a singing style. However that should go, I don't really have an idea. But
Right.
That's what it said. Okay, so first of all, we went through woodblock grove. A woodblock is also a musical instrument. It doesn't sound that different to me from the clavis that we heard earlier. But yeah, it's just a whole bunch of different kinds of woodblocks, and they all have slightly different sounds. And check them out, yo. And then we arrived at Andante, and Andante is, what is it here? Moderately slow. And it seems like we've had like the phrase moderately slow a million times, but actually we haven't. But I said earlier that Andantino, that's just slightly faster than moderately slow. So Andantino is slightly faster than Andante. That's what that is. Lento. Lento cemetery. Lento means I don't have any deep knowledge or previous experience with this word, so I'm just reading it here. Slowly.
What a change.
Like another word that means slowly, right? Like Andante means slowly. I don't get it.
I don't know.
Okay, so it's slow. And then rondo is I'm just reading it here, but although I do know a little bit about this one. A musical form with a recurring leading theme, often found in the final movement of a sonata or concerto. And, it's I suppose it's kind of like a fugue, where I mentioned a long time ago, or before, a fugue. It's like you have your main melody or whatever, or your main thing, and it comes back at like different ways. So in this one, I don't think it has any complex rules like a fugue has, where it has to be played 1/5 above when it was originally played the second time or whatever. I don't think it has anything like that. But it has like a recurring melody that comes back. That is a rondo. Princess Serenade is... Okay, serenade. That's a word. This is a great word. A serenade is a song that a man, typically a man, would sing from down beneath a woman's house window to woo her and stuff. That's a serenade.
Is that like the definition?
That's what I found when I read the definition. I thought at first I just thought it was a song with which to entertain people, in any way. To serenade someone just means to entertain them with music is what I thought. But it gave me that definition, and I like that one better. It's like straight up freaking Romeo and Juliet outside the window freaking definition. So I like it. And then we go into the next dungeon, which is the Sharp Mountains. Sharp is a musical term. You might think that these mountains are sharp and they're going to cut your hands if you brush against them, but that's not what it means. It means that these mountains are half a step higher in pitch. So, for example, if you see a C on your music score and then there's a sharp next to it, you're going to play not C, but C sharp. And C sharp is a half step higher sound than C sharp. And that is also a half step below the next note, which is D, right? It's a half step. It's like the note in between. And so the opposite of a sharp would be a flat sign, which means to do it a half step below. Now, a D flat and a C sharp is actually the same note. So there's it's something interesting. Yeah. But it makes sense to write them either with sharps or flats, depending on the key that the song is in. So that's why they have both, I guess. And yeah, that's all that is. Sharp. So we're in the Sharp Mountains. Then we go into Wa Lava Cave. Do you know what Wa is?
No, I don't. Oh, is that like a wah bar?
Maybe you're thinking of a whammy bar, but that's...
Whammy bar.
Right. No, that's a different thing. That's a thing that's...
There's a wah pedal.
That's what I think it is, dude. I should have looked it up, but...
Okay.
Because I assumed it's only the guitar. I'm going to look it up right now. I didn't think that it might be something other than a guitar effect. Let me see. Wah. Music...
I thought that was like not a super duper.
Wah-wah is an imitative word or onomatopoeia for the sound of altering. Okay, that I don't care about that. And then wah-wah pedal, which is for electric guitar. So that's it. Yeah, it's the wah guitar pedal effect. That I didn't think this would get in the game, the Chopin game.
Funny.
Yeah, but
yes, right.
A wah pedal is a pedal you hook up to an electric guitar, and when you use it while you're playing the guitar, it makes the guitar sound like wow, 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 wow,
Right.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I can already think of a couple instances.
Yeah, there's some Metallica famous songs I think that use that song, that sound. I mean, and so then we enter stage 16, Mandolin Church Catacombs. A mandolin is it's like think of it like a lute or an acoustic guitar, a smaller one, or like it's mostly like a lute. Think of it as only having 4 strings, even though it only has 8 strings. It's set up so that 2 strings are really close to each other, and then there's a space, and then 2 more strings really close to each other. So when you push with the left hand with your fingers on the fretboard, you don't push 1 string at a time. You actually push 2 at a time. So it's like a 4-stringed instrument, but with 8 strings anyway, kind of a thing. I imagine that its 2 strings are exactly 1 octave apart, so they're the same note, like a C and a C, I would assume.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know for sure though. But that is a mandolin. So I don't actually know the exact definition of an aria. I know that it's a song that you sing. It's a vocal song of sorts. I don't know more than that though. But I know what two coda means. There's a sign on musical scores. I saw it the most in jazz music. I don't know if it's used in classical or not. Called a coda. It looks like, imagine if you draw just like an X, and then so like all the diagonal sections have lines, but if you go north and south and east and west, there's like little spaces in between the lines where you can just put dots, right? That's a coda. And so you just stick that at like the end, let's say, at the end of a song, and there's like a bit of music you're going to put after that. And so what it's used for is like you're going to go through a part of the score, and then you're going to have to go back to a repeat. And then the second time after you finish it, you're going to go on to whatever the next part is. But then eventually you're going to go back to that very first repeat again.
I see.
But this time when you finish it, they don't want you to repeat again, nor do they want you to just go on to the next part. They want you to go to the coda part of the thing. So yeah, and then we enter stage 20, Mount Rock. Rock is a genre of music. There you go. Actually, I think we mentioned
Man,
that.
I didn't even, that one went like under my head. I was like, Mount Rock, it's a rocky mountain.
Right, that's what I originally thought first. I didn't notice
It's
till
like,
this time.
rock.
This is actually the musical genre, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, so they did a good job with that name, I guess.